A little announcement before the start of this video. All last year, I was working on a book cover, and the book is now officially published and available over on Amazon. I'll have a link down in the description to it, but if you guys are interested in a spicy, supernatural, witchy read, definitely go over to the Amazon listing in the description and go get yourself a copy. Again, very spicy, very adult book. If that is your vibe, definitely go and support it. It helps to support me and it also supports the author. So I hope you guys enjoy. Bye-bye. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a little how-to session with the goal being how to do a spooky glowy light sort of ambiance. So the piece that we're doing this on is my day 2 prompt for my 12 days of Halloween little challenge that I'm doing this year. And this prompt is acid. If you're curious about day 1's prompt, which was moonlight, I recommend going over mainly to my Patreon to see the full uncensored piece, or you can go to my Instagram to see the censored version. You can also find the censored version over on my Patreon as well. So with that said, I have done this sort of spooky glowing effect, and I'm going to show you an example of what I mean with what I'm trying to go for here once before. Granted, I was using Copic markers. This time around, I'm going to try to do this with mostly watercolors, but there might be Copics that are going to get thrown in here as well as colored pencils. We'll just see what happens as we work around. But this was the piece that I first kind of tested out this idea, a little Makima fan art, which she is available as stickers and prints. If anybody's interested, check out my shop below. But this is the idea we're going for. And I did do the same thing I did for this piece, where I did a color comp over using digital media, my Clip Studio Paint. So I did the same thing for this, and you'll see that roll now. But I would say 2 of the main challenges with trying to do this effect is figuring out where your light is coming from, and 2, how to make sure that the rest of the piece is color correct, but also dark enough to really make that glow pop, to really feel realistic. So that is what our little challenge is here. I will say that I also did use reference. I took my own reference photos of myself with the kind of lighting I was looking for. Granted, not the same color, but still the same lighting, in order to understand where the light would be falling on this figure correctly. I highly recommend, if you want to test out anything, if you want to do any kind of interesting artifact, or how do I draw this lighting, or how do I draw this thing, look for references. References are your friends. And if you can find them for real life, that's even better. If you can go to a live model session in your city or your school or something, do it. This is what's going to make you a really strong artist moving forward, and you will improve a lot faster than other ways I've noticed. It really does help to draw from life and just to use references in general. That's not to say that it's not good to just draw from your imagination, but if you want to make your drawings from imagination even stronger, start by observing real life around you. You can make it interesting. You'll start to notice strange things, even if you're looking at the most basic of like furniture in your room. If you're really looking at it with an open mind and that artist's eye, you're gonna start to find things and notice things that you never had before. So that's my little spiel on that. But the first step here, now that we have our color comp kind of figured out, we have a game plan of where the main areas are that I'm going to be focusing on the light, and also my color composition, which I'm doing a tri-color kind of color scheme, where again I have that kind of green yellow idea as my main glow. So what were my tri-colors to kind of fit with that? If we use a color wheel, which I got one of these fun little color keychain rings. So again, we're kind of working in this color range right here. So we're going to be, our tricolor kind of complements are going to be in that blue range, and then using this orange stuff, which is, you saw from my color comp, that's what I was trying to using, but toning down the saturation on these colors to make them more dim, to make sure that the rest of the colors around are kind of dark, minus maybe we'll see how her hair goes around. I was already planning on doing her hair blue because, again, if you're not following around with this 12-day challenge, It was very much inspired by a specific thing, which was a song done by Ashniko, hopefully I pronounced her name correctly, called the 7 Days of Halloween. Fun song, but that's what kind of inspired this whole challenge and the particular prompts for this year. So I was already planning on doing this one with blue hair in honor of reference to the background of this challenge, so to speak. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start swatching some colors to figure out, okay, what are the main watercolors I'm gonna use to achieve the colors that I'm trying to go for here in this piece. Again, referencing our color comp to help us along in this process. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and swatch some colors. Again, I always recommend having some sort of spare, piece of watercolor paper or something just to get an idea of some colors, and you could test throughout the process of your painting. So right now I'm swatching the green colors. Definitely, I think that's a great one. It's very similar to the color that I used in my Copic marker piece, but let's see what other options we also have. And these are all various different watercolor palettes that I have. So this one, you can see that it's definitely a different pigment. It's darker, it's got a little bit more, I feel like yellow, it's a little bit more warm, but I feel like that's a color that could definitely work too. My assumption is this one's gonna be a little bit darker, yep. And this one also has some granulating qualities to it, so this may not be one that I'm gonna grab, except maybe like the darkest areas of sort of the green I want. This might be suitable for that, but I'm definitely leaning more towards these ones. I think that's also a good one right there too, because it's a little bit more yellow. So I'm definitely liking these greens. Now the question is, now we're gonna look at kind of blue options. And that's where I feel definitely the challenge I'm gonna have with this piece is making sure that I keep the saturation lower to keep that dark look going. So let's see what I have here. So that's a very vibrant blue. Now the thing with watercolor is you do want to work typically light to dark, because again, these are very translucent pigments. Acrylic gouache in particular is very opaque, while normal gouache is a little bit more, it can be more translucent, mattering on which type of pigment it is and how much you water it down. But I don't mind that blue. Of course, I want some portions that are gonna be a little bit brighter. Let's see about, now for areas where there's probably light hitting her hair, I wanna give it a little bit more of an effect where the green color from the bowl of acid is going to affect it. So maybe something that's a little bit more turquoise in those areas might be nice. Of course, I'm most likely gonna use some of my, I think one of my lights just went out. Some of my favorite dark blue that I have in one of my particular palettes. This kind of gray blue that might come in handy, maybe for shadows somewhere. And the other question is, how are we gonna go about doing sort of our dark red color? So most likely this is gonna require mixing around some different colors together. For example, this is a mix of like some different reds and some greens, which we're getting more of a brown gray with that. But that might be a way to start the background. But again, we need to figure out a way to make it, I want it a little bit more deep and maybe a little more saturation to it. See, that's too light. But essentially this is the idea you have to get at, is you have to, it's not a bad idea to start by testing out your watercolors, see what they're willing to do, what color range you have, and trying to figure out, what are you going to use for what and how are you going to achieve what you're looking for. I might end up using something kind of more like this, except that is very purple. You can always pull out just straight black, but we are trying to keep with this whole tri-colored idea. So yeah, that you essentially just do this process until you have a better idea of how you're going to achieve certain things. I'm not always the best at doing this stage. A lot of times I just start diving in and doing things and seeing what happens, but that might not be the best method for everyone. But with that said, we're going to start playing around with laying some lighter colors. Mostly we're going to start with our greens, since we have a good idea of what's going on with those. And anyway, I don't have a fear of having these greens bleed kind of all over the place, because they're going to get covered anyway, but these are also, I would say, the stars of this whole piece and the idea we're going for. Alrighty, we are in voiceover mode here, so I'm going to keep it pretty short and sweet in saying that I heavily relied on my reference photo to help me figure out where light was going. Obviously, you can see that I initially start by blocking in where I want those lightest lights to be, and that is sort of my guiding lighthouse throughout this piece, because I kind of work everything around that idea. Is, all right, these are where the hottest parts essentially of the light are going to be on the piece, and so everything else around it has to follow suit with being more dim or dark, so that way, especially that green color and all that can really pop and shine and be how I wanted it to be, the star of the show. Now, I did factor a little bit into the localized color because, okay, she's got to have a skin color in some sense. We have to feel that a little bit, which, again, you could honestly use any color as long as the skin could have been any color. As long as you have the sense of the shadows and that green light correctly, it really doesn't matter if those are correct, if that makes sense. And so as far as like the dress goes that she's wearing, her little outfit, I mainly kept that a gray with just a sense of like what the localized colors of the stripes and the stars would be, just as a more so a visual stylized, again, another stylized choice. I would say the most stylized choices I probably kept in this piece that didn't necessarily follow the rules of the lighting I chose were the color of the stars, the color of the stripes, the bones, the hair pieces, and in some instances her hair. But I did try to keep the hair a little bit more in the realm of how the light is working here, where it's like there are portions of the hair that are definitely darker and pushed to the back, versus the ones that are more up close, where you can get a real strong sense of like, oh, what is the localized color of this? Well, it's this very vibrant blue. So yeah, honestly, it's just a lot of time spent building up layers upon layers. I even go back and with the face, because I got that blocked in very quickly of like, okay, these are where the brightest lights are on here. But then I started looking a little more closely at the face. I'm like, I want to push that a little bit more. What are some of those more subtle shadows that would be in there? And again, I was using my reference photo to really look for those, to add that kind of detail. Some of the final things that I did on this piece too were, of course, adding a little bit of white gel pen here and there just to, in the eyes, to clean up some of the lines around the finger bones and all of that. But yeah, I don't really know what more to say on this, because I think the video and the clips that I show here kind of speak for themselves of how this goes. It's not the most, I would say the most complicated part of this is obviously just figuring out where your light is going. And the best way to achieve that is having a good reference photo, which is why I staged the lighting myself to get the photo that I wanted, as well as like the shape of the pot correct in the way that I wanted it to be. So yeah, I will just let the rest of the video play. And if you guys have questions, if you want me to do a video more specifically talking about a particular part of this process, definitely do leave those suggestions down below. Also, remember to please check out the link down in the description to the book that I did the book cover for. I'd really appreciate if you guys go and check that out. If you go check out the author's webpage, buy a copy of the book. If you are so inclined, it would be a huge help to me as well as the author. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Bye.